Most people live and die without ever discovering why they were born. They wake up, go to work, follow the crowd, and die full of regret. But what if I told you your life was never meant to be this empty? What if you were born for something far greater than survival? In this video, we'll uncover the silent enemy destroying your purpose and how the teachings of Dr. Myles Munroe can resurrect the leader buried inside you. They don't tell you this in school, and they certainly won't tell you in society. Most people are already dead, they just haven't been buried yet. They walk around with their dreams decaying inside them. Their eyes move, but their vision is gone. Their bodies function, but their spirit is silent. Because from the moment they accepted the lie that their life has no specific purpose, they began to rot, slowly, silently, tragically. You weren't born to simply exist. You weren't created to wake up, go to work, eat, sleep, and repeat that cycle until your hair turns gray and your bones turn cold. You were born with something divine trapped inside you, something eternal, irreplaceable, and dangerous to the mediocrity around you. But here's the crime: most people never release it. They never unlock what they were sent to earth to solve. They never speak the words only they could speak. They never write the book, build the movement, launch the vision, because they've been seduced by safety and paralyzed by doubt. I've walked through graveyards and felt the weight of wasted lives under my feet. And every time I stand there, I know this: the richest place on earth is not Wall Street, it's not the oil fields of the Middle East, and it's not the diamond mines of South Africa. It is the cemetery. Buried in that dirt are songs that were never sung, cures that were never discovered, books that were never written, businesses that were never built, and destinies that were never fulfilled. Because someone somewhere believed the lie that they weren't enough, that they didn't matter, that their presence on this earth was accidental. That is the greatest lie ever sold, that your life is just a random breath of air. No, you are a deliberate idea in the mind of God. You were born with intent, and that intent was wrapped in potential. What is potential? Potential is who you really are, but haven't become yet. It is everything you can do, but haven't done yet. It's the future that sleeps inside you, begging for resurrection. But potential is a curse when it's never activated. It becomes a burden, a slow-burning guilt, that nagging feeling that follows you into every job you take, every relationship you enter, every night you try to sleep, but your soul screams, "This isn't it. I was meant for more." That voice is not your imagination. That's your purpose knocking on the door of your comfort, demanding that you move. But you won't move if you don't believe you were born with something important. That's the trick the enemy plays. He convinces you that you're ordinary, that you were just born to survive. That purpose is for the gifted, the chosen, the lucky few. Let me tell you the truth. Purpose is not for the elite. It is your birthright. And if you ignore it, life will punish you for it. Every job that suffocates you, every voice that disrespects your worth, every dream that dies in your hands, that is your punishment for betraying your potential. The world doesn't reward the ones who hide their gifts. The world rewards those who dare to bring their invisible treasure into visible form. That is your assignment. That is your reason for breathing. But the clock is ticking, and time is not loyal. It gives you opportunity, but it won't wait for you to wake up. Every day you delay is a day you surrender your crown, a day where the world spins without your influence, a day when your destiny watches in silence, wondering if you'll ever claim it. You must understand, you are not here by accident. Your birth was a strategy. You were sent into this time, this generation, this nation, because there is a problem on earth that can only be solved by the person you are becoming. And every day you choose safety over struggle, ease over excellence, comfort over calling. That problem remains unsolved. That is not just laziness. That is injustice. That is the real definition of sin: to miss the mark, to fall short of the intention, to die with your work still trapped inside you. So many people spend their lives building someone else's dream, all while ignoring the empire they were born to build. They become masters at survival, experts at pretending, professionals at suppression, but they never touch significance. They never taste the joy of knowing they did what they were born to do. That's the pain nobody talks about. Not failure, not rejection, but the deep silent agony of wasted purpose, of buried greatness, of unused genius, of dying full of dreams, full of ideas, full of unspoken truths. And yet they smile, they post, they pretend, all while their inner world collapses, because nothing can satisfy a soul that knows it was created for more. Nothing, not money, not applause, not distraction. Until you confront that question, why was I born? You will continue to live beneath yourself and call it normal. But there is nothing normal about wasting power. There is nothing acceptable about choosing mediocrity when you were created for dominion. There is no peace in ignoring your potential. There is only the quiet torment of knowing you could have been more. The greatest enemy of your future is not failure. It's not poverty. It's not even ignorance. The greatest enemy of your future is your comfort zone. Because comfort whispers lies to you. It tells you that where you are is good enough. It convinces you that mediocrity is wisdom. It sedates your ambition with ease. It numbs your urgency with false peace. And when it finally finishes its work, you will call your prison a blessing and your limitations God's will. But let's be honest, most people don't want to live by faith. They want to live by familiarity. They want the predictable, the controllable, the soft path that keeps their fears undisturbed. They want to feel safe, even if it costs them their purpose. So they trade their calling for comfort, their dreams for stability, their future for routine. And the tragedy is the world applauds it. It calls it maturity. It calls it responsibility. But it's not maturity, it's surrender. It's compromise dressed in respectability. You were never created to be safe. You were created to be dangerous to the status quo. You were born to disrupt systems, to break cycles, to invade the world with a solution no one else carries. But that kind of life cannot coexist with comfort. Purpose always demands risk. Destiny always demands discomfort. Because nothing significant is born in ease. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Warriors are trained in adversity. Leaders are forged in pain. And yet when discomfort comes knocking, most people run. They call it a sign to stop. But what they're really saying is, I'm not willing to pay the price for who I was born to become. Myles Munroe once said, the graveyard is full of people who were too scared to take the risk. That sentence should haunt you, because it means there are destinies buried 6 feet deep that were supposed to change nations, ideas that could have revolutionized industries, voices that could have set people free, but they chose comfort. They chose the easy path. They chose what was familiar, even if it suffocated their greatness. Comfort has a cost, and that cost is your calling. When you make your decisions based on fear, when you avoid risk in the name of security, you forfeit the territory you were supposed to conquer. It's not that you failed, it's that you never fought. You stayed hidden, you played small, you called average your destiny and hoped no one would challenge you. But purpose has no respect for your comfort. It demands your stretch. It requires you to step into spaces you don't feel ready for. And that's the secret, you'll never feel ready. Readiness is a myth sold to people who are afraid to move. Destiny comes to those who move in uncertainty, who obey before they understand, who sacrifice before they're applauded. The illusion of safety is the strategy of the powerless. Machiavelli warned that comfort is the tool rulers use to make slaves content, because a man who fears discomfort can be controlled. A man who clings to safety will never rebel. And that's exactly why the system wants you comfortable, because it wants you passive, it wants you quiet, it wants you numb. But you were not born to be a pawn, you were born to reign. And the crown is only given to those who can endure the pressure of rising. The path to purpose is violent. It will require you to let go of people, places, and versions of yourself that no longer serve your assignment. And that's why so few ever find it, because they want to hold on to their past and walk into their future at the same time. It doesn't work like that. You will be asked to walk away from what you built with your own hands. You will be asked to leave comfort zones that once felt like home. But that is the test. Can you leave what's familiar for what's divine? Can you walk into the unknown without a blueprint, knowing only that your purpose is calling? There is no safe path to destiny, and there shouldn't be, because if it were easy, everyone would fulfill it. And if everyone fulfilled it, the world wouldn't be in the chaos it's in now. The emptiness you see in people's eyes, the depression masked by luxury, the boredom disguised as success, it all comes from one place. They chose comfort. They rejected the inner call because the external risk was too high. And now they live with the haunting silence of what could have been. You must confront this question. What has comfort stolen from you? What relationships are you tolerating because change feels risky? What job are you trapped in because you fear the unknown? What version of yourself are you pretending to be because becoming more would make others uncomfortable? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to awaken you. Because until you see comfort as the enemy, you'll keep calling your prison a blessing. Until you feel the pain of wasted purpose, you'll keep confusing routine with fulfillment. Until you taste the hunger of your real calling, you'll keep settling for the crumbs of security. The average person thinks they need more religion to find meaning. They go to more services, memorize more scriptures, sing louder songs, hoping that something in the process will reveal their purpose. But what they don't realize is that religion is the greatest camouflage for purposelessness. It keeps people busy but not effective, emotional but not transformed, inspired but not deployed. Religion gives you rituals, kingdom gives you rulership. Religion gives you a label, kingdom gives you a mission. And until you understand this distinction, you will spend your entire life in a church building and still die never knowing why God sent you to earth. Myles Munroe didn't preach religion, he exposed it, he tore it down, he shook the cages of tradition and dared people to think like kings instead of slaves. He taught what Jesus actually came to bring, not a religion, not a denomination, not a spiritual routine, but a kingdom, a government, a domain of influence where every citizen has power, every ambassador has authority, and every individual carries a specific assignment. And yet most people never step into this identity because they are trapped in the comfort of religious performance. They think their worth is tied to how often they pray, how much they serve, or how well they behave. But none of that answers the ultimate question: what were you born to do? Your existence is not random. You were placed here with a territory to rule, a gift to distribute, and a problem to solve. But religion never trained you for that. It trained you to wait, to beg, to defer all authority to others. It taught you to be a follower of systems, not a leader in your sphere. Religion made you passive, but kingdom makes you dangerous. Because when you discover that you are royalty, born with rights, born with vision, born with the ability to legislate heaven's will on earth, you become a threat to everything that profits from your smallness. You were never meant to worship God through fear. You were meant to represent Him through purpose. That's why you have gifts that don't look spiritual, because your assignment is not limited to a pulpit. You might be called to business, to medicine, to education, to media, to innovation, and yet religion will make you feel like your calling is inferior because it doesn't fit within its narrow definitions of service. But let me make this clear: your job is not your work is your assignment, and that assignment is sacred, whether it happens in a church or a boardroom, in a school or in the streets. Jesus came preaching one message: the kingdom, not Christianity, not membership. He didn't die to make you religious. He died to restore your dominion. He died to give you access to your original authority. But when you've been raised in religion, authority feels illegal, boldness feels rebellious, vision feels arrogant. So you shrink, you conform, you settle for approval instead of anointing, all while your spirit screams for more. Myles Munroe was clear: the greatest discovery in life is self-discovery, and the greatest tragedy is self-ignorance. And that's exactly what religion breeds: a generation that knows how to serve but not how to reign, a people who can recite scripture but can't articulate their purpose, a nation of believers who are waiting on God to move while God is waiting on them to govern. You can't govern a territory you don't even know belongs to you. You can't influence a culture you've been taught to escape. Kingdom thinking demands engagement. It requires you to step into the world, not run from it. It commissions you to transform environments, not hide in spiritual routines and call it faithfulness. If you've been trained by religion, you probably believe your value comes from how holy you act. But in kingdom, your value comes from the impact you make, not the show you put on, but the influence you carry, not the perfection of your appearance, but the precision of your assignment. You were not called to live under rules. You were called to function under revelation. And that revelation is this: you were born to rule something. You were designed to lead somewhere. You were crafted for a specific reason that no one else can fulfill. But as long as you allow religion to limit your understanding, you'll keep trying to fit in when you were born to stand out. Your purpose is not to be pious. It is to be powerful. Your purpose is not to be hidden in fear of sin. It is to be deployed in dominion over darkness. You are not just saved from hell. You are saved for impact. And that impact is only possible when you shift from the mindset of a member to the mentality of a monarch. The kingdom is not a place you go to. It's a government you operate from. It's a dimension of responsibility, authority, and vision. It's a lifestyle of purpose on earth, not a promise of escape into heaven. Religion taught you how to get to heaven. Kingdom teaches you how to bring heaven here. And if you want to fulfill your calling, if you want to walk in true meaning, you must let go of the rituals that kept you busy but broke, passive but praised, limited but liked. You must confront the lie that obedience means invisibility, that faith means silence, that humility means powerlessness. Because those ideas don't come from heaven. They come from systems designed to keep you dependent, to keep you fearful, to keep you under control. But the moment you realize you are an ambassador of a higher government, everything changes.
You were not born to be normal. You are not created to blend in. You are not designed to follow, copy, imitate, or survive. You are placed on earth with an assignment, crafted with surgical precision, built for a specific mission that no one before you and no one after you can fully carry out. That is not motivational talk. That is not feel-good philosophy. That is divine strategy. You are not here by chance. You are a solution wrapped in skin. You are an answer disguised as a person. But here's the problem. You've been trained to hide, conditioned to shrink, programmed to obey structures that were never built for your kind. Because the system doesn't want leaders. It wants followers. It wants obedient workers. It wants compliant citizens. It wants dreamless laborers who exchange their genius for a paycheck and call that security. And if you're not careful, the world will bury your leadership beneath titles, tasks, and traditions that look important but starve your spirit. Myles Munroe didn't just teach leadership, he resurrected it. He reminded us that leadership is not a title, it's not a position, it's not charisma or control. Leadership is the accurate, responsible deployment of your gift in the direction of your assignment. And if you don't know your gift, you will never know your authority. If you don't discover your problem to solve, you will forever serve another man's purpose. That's how the world works. If you don't lead, you will be led. If you don't rise, you will bow. Every human being is born with the seed of leadership inside them. But that seed must be activated. It must be trained. It must be provoked by purpose. Because leadership is not automatic. It requires pressure. It requires vision. It requires the death of excuses and the birth of responsibility. No one becomes a leader by default. They become a leader by decision. And that decision must be made in private before it's honored in public. You were sent to earth to fix something. That's why your pain matters. That's why your background matters. That's why your frustrations are not random. The problems that anger you are the ones you were born to solve. The things that keep you up at night. The injustice that breaks your heart. The gap you see that no one else sees. That's not a flaw. That's a signal. That's the clue to your territory. Because real leadership doesn't start with ego. It starts with burden. The problem is most people are too busy trying to imitate other people's success to discover their own assignment. They chase trends, mimic movements, download templates, all while ignoring the voice inside that's trying to tell them who they really are. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs you, fully you, authentically you, fearlessly you, because no one else has your fingerprint. And that fingerprint was designed to unlock something specific in this generation. If you die without solving your problem, the world suffers. Myles Munroe said that leadership is the capacity to influence others through your gift. That means you were born to be an influencer, not in the social media sense, but in the kingdom sense. You were born to leave a mark, shift a space, command a lane. But you can't do that if you're waiting to be qualified by external voices. You don't need permission to walk in what God already placed in you. You don't need approval to fix what's broken. You don't need applause to activate your authority. Your presence is the permission. Your problem is the proof. Hidden leaders are everywhere. They sit in classrooms, offices, homes, churches, waiting for someone to discover them, validate them, release them. But no one is coming. You must break yourself out. You must dig into the core of your being and unearth the leadership that's been buried under fear, failure, and false beliefs. You don't need more time. You need more clarity. You don't need a better platform. You need the courage to own your voice. Because the world is not transformed by the talented. It's transformed by the obedient. You think leadership is a luxury. It's not. It's a responsibility. If you don't rise, darkness wins. If you don't lead, confusion multiplies. If you don't speak, deception grows louder. That's why the world is in the condition it's in. Because people with answers are too afraid to offend. Because the wise have been silenced, and the foolish have taken center stage. But when you discover your assignment, when you understand your territory, when you embrace your difference, you stop playing small and start governing with boldness. Every great shift in history began with one hidden leader deciding to stop hiding. And that decision always begins in obscurity. Nobody will cheer at first. Nobody will clap. You will feel crazy. You will be misunderstood. You will be rejected. But you must rise anyway. Because the people attached to your assignment are waiting. They don't need your perfection. They need your obedience. They don't need your fame. They need your function. And until you step into that role fully, unapologetically, with conviction and clarity, they remain in bondage. Because your leadership is their liberation. You've been lied to. You were never just flesh and blood. Never just a face in the crowd. Never just another body clocking in, sitting down, shutting up, and fading out. You were born with purpose. Born with intention. Born with something eternal locked inside you, waiting to be discovered, developed, and delivered to the world before you die. And that purpose cannot be outsourced. It cannot be borrowed. It cannot be delayed forever. Because there is a window, and that window is now. You've learned that most people die full of untapped power, unreleased vision, unused gifts. You've seen that comfort is not safety, it is the silent killer of destiny. You now know that religion is not your source of meaning, kingdom is. And you've heard the truth. The world is in chaos because too many leaders like you are still asleep, still hidden, still waiting for a sign, while the people assigned to you are bleeding without answers. You were not called to play it safe. You were called to reign. Not to follow the rules of a system that profits off your silence, but to break the mold, shift the culture, disrupt the pattern, and release what only you carry. There is a blueprint buried inside you, an invisible mandate, a problem you were designed to solve. And every second you hesitate is a second you deny the world its healing. Myles Munroe didn't come to comfort you, he came to provoke you, to awaken the king inside you, the queen inside you, the reformer, the builder, the teacher, the speaker, the visionary, the creator. You were never born to exist quietly. You were born to die empty, completely poured out, completely fulfilled, completely victorious. So the only question left is this: will you rise, or will you let the grave steal what you were meant to give? Because you were born with a purpose. And now that you know it, you are without excuse.